Let me take you back to the day everything changed. My name is Naomi Chen, and I'm 22 years old. That afternoon should have been one of the happiest moments of my existence. There I was, graduating magna cum laude, with my degree in chemical engineering from State University. The auditorium was packed with families, all cheering and crying tears of joy as names were called one by one. When they announced my name, I felt like I was floating across that stage. 4 years of endless studying, countless sleepless nights, and working myself to exhaustion had finally paid off. My whole family was there in the audience. Mom and Dad sitting front and center, beaming with pride. My younger twin brothers, Marcus and Andre, who were 17 at the time, actually looked impressed instead of their usual teasing selves. And there was Aunt Simone, my mother's older sister, who had insisted on driving us all in her brand-new luxury sedan. She'd been going on about that car for months, how it had all the latest safety features, how smooth the ride was, how much money she'd spent on it. The ceremony felt like it lasted forever, but in the best possible way. I kept touching my diploma, making sure it was real, that this wasn't some dream I'd wake up from. When it finally ended, we all poured out into the bright sunshine. Mom was crying, actually sobbing with happiness. Dad kept hugging me and saying, "That's my girl. That's my brilliant girl." Even Marcus and Andre were being sweet for once, joking about how I was going to be rich and famous, and they'd have to start being nice to me. Aunt Simone suggested we celebrate somewhere special. "My treat," she announced loudly, jingling her car keys. "My niece just graduated with honors. We're going to that new steakhouse everyone's been talking about, the one overlooking the harbor." She pulled out her credit card and waved it around like a flag. Nothing but the best for the Chen family today. I should mention that Aunt Simone had always been the flashy one in our family. She worked in real estate and did well for herself, always dressed in expensive clothes, always talking about her latest purchase or vacation. Mom said it was because Aunt Simone never had kids of her own, so she spoiled herself instead. But she could also be generous with us, at least when she wanted to show off how successful she was. The restaurant was everything she promised. Floor-to-ceiling windows with an incredible view of the water. White tablecloths, fancy silverware, waiters in crisp uniforms. Aunt Simone ordered like money was no object. Appetizers, the most expensive steaks on the menu, lobster tails, fancy wines for the adults, premium sodas for Marcus and Andre. She kept making toasts, her voice getting louder with each glass of wine. "To Naomi," she declared, raising her glass for what must have been the 5th time. "First person in our entire extended family to get an engineering degree. Do you know how proud that makes us? How far we've come?" Her words were starting to blend together, a little, but we were all too happy to notice or care. Dad tried to slow her down. "Simone, maybe pace yourself a little. We still have to drive home." She waved him off. "Michael, please, I can handle my wine. I've been drinking since before you were married." She laughed at her own joke, a bit too loudly. "Besides, the car practically drives itself. All those safety features, remember." The meals seemed to go on forever. Course after course. Aunt Simone telling stories about when Mom and she were young. Embarrassing tales that made Mom blush and the twins laugh. I was mostly quiet, just soaking it all in, enjoying being the center of attention in a good way for once. My phone buzzed a few times with congratulations messages from friends, but I ignored them. This moment was for family. By the time dessert arrived, dark clouds were rolling in from the ocean. The restaurant windows showed the sky turning an ominous gray. Wind started whipping up the water, creating whitecaps on the harbor. Dad checked the weather on his phone and frowned. "Storms coming in faster than they predicted," he said. "Simone, We should probably get going soon. Aunt Simone was working on her 6th or 7th glass of wine. I'd lost count. It's just a little rain, Michael. Don't be such a worrier. But even as she said it, the first drop started spattering against the windows. Within minutes, it became a downpour. We should wait it out, Mom suggested, glancing nervously at the parking lot, where rain was now sheeting down so hard you could barely see the cars. Nonsense, Aunt Simone said, standing up a bit unsteadily and grabbing her designer purse. I've driven in worse. The car has all-wheel drive, traction control, the works. We'll be fine. She was already heading toward the exit, leaving Dad to settle the bill that she'd promised to pay. I saw the look my parents exchanged, that silent communication that happens between people who've been married for decades. They were worried, but Aunt Simone was already at the door, and contradicting her when she'd just paid for this expensive meal seemed rude. So we followed her out into the rain. The wind hit us like a wall. My graduation gown, which I was still wearing over my nice dress, whipped around me. We ran for the car, all of us getting drenched in the few seconds it took to cross the parking lot. Aunt Simone was fumbling with her keys, cursing under her breath. When she finally got the doors unlocked, we practically fell inside. I ended up in the back seat between Marcus and Andre. Mom and Dad took the middle row of seats, since it was a 3-row SUV. Aunt Simone climbed into the driver's seat, adjusting her wet hair in the rearview mirror. Her makeup was smeared, and I could see her eyes were slightly glazed, red-rimmed from the wine. Aunt Simone, I started to say, maybe we should call a cab or something. With what money? She snapped, her pleasant mood from dinner suddenly gone. You know how much cabs cost. Besides, I'm fine, perfectly fine. I've had a few glasses of wine with a big meal. That's nothing. Dad leaned forward from the middle row. Simone, I can drive. Just let me. It's my car, Michael. Nobody drives my car but me. Now everyone buckle up and stop fussing. The sooner we get on the road, the sooner we're home. The engine purred to life, smooth and quiet, just like she'd always bragged. She pulled out of the parking lot a bit too fast, tires squealing slightly on the wet pavement. The windshield wipers were going at full speed, but they could barely keep up with the rain hammering down. Visibility was terrible. The twins were quiet in the back seat with me, which was unusual. Andre kept glancing at me nervously. Marcus had his phone out, probably texting his girlfriend, but his fingers were moving slower than usual. He was tense. We all were. Aunt Simone merged onto the highway, accelerating hard. The speedometer climbed past 60, then 70. The posted speed limit was 55, and that was in good weather. Aunt Simone, please slow down, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and respectful. The roads are really slick. I know how to drive, Naomi. I've been driving since before you were born. Her words were sharp, defensive. The wine talking. Mom turned around to look at us from the middle row. Kids, tell me about your plans for the summer. Andre, Marcus, you're both doing that soccer camp, right? She was trying to keep everyone distracted, to keep the mood light. But I could hear the fear underneath her cheerful tone. Yeah, Mom, Marcus answered quietly. Starts in 2 weeks. And Naomi, sweetie, tell us more about that job offer. The one from Patterson Chemical? They want me to come in next week to finalize paperwork and meet the team. That's wonderful, baby. Dad said. He was gripping the door handle, I noticed. His knuckles were white. We're so proud of you. Aunt Simone's head bobbed forward for a second. Just a second, but enough for me to see it. She was nodding off. Fighting sleep or the effects of all that wine. The car drifted slightly to the right, toward the shoulder. Simone, Dad barked sharply. She jerked upright, overcorrected to the left. The car swerved. "I'm fine. I told you, I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. I could see it now, could see what I should have seen back at the restaurant. Her movements were sluggish. Her speech had been slurred during dessert. She'd had way too much to drink. And now we were going 70 miles an hour in a storm with a drunk driver. "Pull over," Dad said firmly. "Simone, pull over right now. I'll drive the rest of the way." "I said I'm fine." She was angry now, her voice rising. "Why doesn't anyone in this family trust me? I'm the successful one. I'm the one who paid for that fancy dinner. And this is the thanks I get? Everyone doubting me?" The rain got heavier. The highway curved ahead, a long, sweeping turn to the left. Aunt Simone was still accelerating, 75 now. The car started to hydroplane, that sickening feeling when the tires lose contact with the road and you're essentially floating on a thin layer of water. "Slow down," Mom screamed. Everything happened so fast after that. Aunt Simone's head dropped again, her eyes closing. The car drifted right, way right, heading for the guardrail and the steep embankment beyond it. I saw it all unfold like it was in slow motion. The guardrail getting closer. Dad reaching forward, trying to grab the wheel from the back seat. Mom's scream cutting through the sound of rain and wind. Aunt Simone jolted awake at the last second, saw the guardrail, and yanked the wheel hard left. Too hard. Way too hard. The car fishtailed violently. The back end swung around. We were spinning now, completely out of control on the slick pavement. I grabbed Andre's hand on one side and Marcus's on the other, squeezing tight. Time stretched out. I remember thinking, this isn't real. This can't be happening. Not today. Not on my graduation day. The car spun a full rotation. I saw the concrete barrier of the opposite side of the highway rushing toward us. Saw the look of absolute terror on Mom's face as she turned to look back at us. Saw Dad still trying to reach the wheel, trying to do something, anything. The impact was beyond description. The sound of metal crumpling, glass exploding, airbags deploying with sounds like shotgun blasts. My world became a chaos of violence and noise and pain. My head snapped forward into the seat in front of me. The seatbelt locked tight across my chest, crushing my ribs. I felt something in my right arm break with a sickening crack. Andre was screaming, or maybe that was Marcus, or me. The car flipped. We went airborne. For a second, we were weightless, suspended. Then gravity took over. We came down hard, landing on the driver's side. The car scraped along the pavement in a shower of sparks, then tumbled down an embankment, over and over, rolling, everything inside becoming a violent tumbler of bodies and belongings and broken glass. We came to rest upside down. The sudden silence was almost worse than the noise had been. Just the hiss of steam from the engine, the patter of rain, and someone crying, low, painful sobs that might have been mine. I was hanging from my seatbelt, upside down. Blood was running up my face, into my hairline. No, wait, I was upside down, so it was running down my face, toward my forehead. Everything was confused. My right arm hung at a wrong angle, useless. The pain hadn't hit yet. Shock was keeping it at bay, but I knew it was coming. "Mom," I croaked out. "Dad, Marcus, Andre," movement in the middle row. "I'm okay." Dad's voice, strained but steady. "Linda, honey, are you okay?" A moan from Mom. "I think so. My shoulder. I think I dislocated my shoulder. Michael, the kids." "We're okay," Marcus said from beside me. His voice was shaking. Andre, you okay?" "Yeah," Andre whispered. "Yeah, I think so. Naomi?" "I'm here," I managed. "My arm's broken, but I'm here." Silence from the front seat. Aunt Simone wasn't making a sound. "Simone?" Dad called out. Nothing. "Simone!" I could see her now in the twisted front of the car. She was still strapped in her seat, hanging upside down like the rest of us. Her eyes were closed. Blood ran from a gash on her forehead, but she was breathing. I could see her chest rising and falling. "She's unconscious," I said, "but breathing." Dad was already working on his seatbelt. "We need to get out. The car could catch fire. Everyone, carefully release your belts, but brace yourself first so you don't fall on your head." We did as he said. One by one, we extracted ourselves from the wreckage. Marcus had to help me because of my arm. The pain was starting to hit now, waves of agony radiating from my elbow. The car was a total loss. The roof was caved in on the driver's side. Windows blown out, doors crumpled. How we'd survived it all was a miracle. Dad managed to pull Aunt Simone out through the shattered windshield. She was still unconscious, but her pulse was strong. Mom, cradling her dislocated shoulder, was already on her phone calling 911. "Yes, there's been an accident on Highway 12, about 5 miles north of the Route 6 junction. Multi-vehicle rollover. We need ambulances. Multiple injuries." The operator's voice was a tinny sound in the rain. Mom gave more details, her voice remarkably calm considering the circumstances. We huddled together under the remains of the overturned car, trying to stay out of the worst of the rain while we waited for help. That's when I saw Dad's expression change. He was looking at something on his phone. His face went from concerned to horrified to something else. Something calculating. "Michael," Mom said. "What is it?" He showed her the screen. I couldn't see it from where I was, but I saw Mom's reaction. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Aunt Simone's unconscious form, then at us kids, then back at Dad. "How much?" she whispered. "The car alone is $160,000, Dad said quietly. "That's just the vehicle. Then there's the policy for injuries. Could be another $200,000 if anyone's seriously hurt." I felt cold despite the adrenaline keeping me warm. "Dad, what are you talking about?" He looked at me, and in that moment, I saw a stranger. "Naomi, honey, you understand how tight money's been, right? How much debt we're in? The second mortgage on the house? Your student loans that we co-signed?" "Michael, what are you saying?" Mom's voice was sharp. "I'm saying that if Simone was drunk driving and we were all in the car, this gets complicated. DUI investigation, possible criminal charges, our names in the paper, and the insurance company will fight the claims. Could take years to get anything. But if," he paused, looking at each of us, "if we weren't in the car, if Simone was driving alone, if she crashed alone, clean accident, full payout, no complications." If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. The words hung in the air like poison. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, no, we were all here. We can't just lie about that." "Who's lying?" he said. "We tell the truth. We were on the car, we all got out safely, we went for help. By the time we got back with emergency services, Simone was already gone. Tragic accident. Single vehicle. No witnesses." "Except there are witnesses," Andre said, his voice young and scared. "All of us. We're witnesses." Dad knelt down to look Andre in the eye. "Are we? Or are we a family taking care of each other? You boys want to go to college someday, right? How do you think we're going to pay for that? Your mom and I are drowning in debt. This insurance money could change everything for us." "What about Aunt Simone?" I demanded. My broken arm throbbed, but the pain in my chest was worse. Emotional pain. Betrayal. "You're just going to leave her here?" "She's alive," Dad said. "Someone will find her. This is a major highway. Even in this storm, traffic will come through. She'll be found and taken to a hospital." "And if she's not?" I pressed. "What if it takes hours? What if she dies?" Mom's voice was quiet but firm. "Simone did this to herself, Naomi. She chose to drive drunk. She chose to put all our lives at risk. Why should our whole family suffer because of her bad choices?" I stared at my mother, this woman who'd raised me, who'd taught me right from wrong, who'd always told me to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. And now she was suggesting we abandon her own sister to save money. I won't do it, I said firmly. I won't lie. This is wrong. Dad's expression hardened. Naomi, you're an adult now. You graduated college today. Time to make adult decisions. This family needs that insurance money. Your student loans alone are crushing us. You want your parents to lose their house? You want your brothers to have no chance at college? I want us to be decent human beings. My voice broke. I want us to do the right thing. Marcus spoke up quietly. Dad, Naomi's right. We can't just leave Aunt Simone. That's messed up. Marcus, Dad started. No, Dad, it's wrong. I know you're worried about money, but this isn't the answer. Dad looked at Andre, his last hope for an ally. Andre stared at the ground, tears mixing with rain on his face. I don't want to do this, he whispered. Please don't make us do this. For a moment, I thought Dad would back down. I thought his conscience would win. But then he looked at Mom, and something passed between them, some silent agreement. Fine, Dad said, his voice cold. Here's what's going to happen. Your mother and I are going to walk up to the highway and flag down help. We're going to tell them we were all in the car but got out safely before going for help. Simone was alone when we left her, still unconscious. That's the story. And if we don't go along with it? I asked. Mom stepped closer to me. In the dim light from Dad's phone, her face looked skeletal, unfamiliar. Then you can stay here, Naomi. You and your broken arm. We'll send help back eventually. Maybe. But understand this. If you contradict our story, if you tell anyone what really happened here, you'll destroy this family. Your father and I could go to jail for insurance fraud. Your brothers will be put in foster care. Is that what you want? You're blackmailing me. We're protecting our family, Dad said. Sometimes that requires hard choices. Now decide, are you with us or against us? I looked at my brothers. Marcus was shaking his head slightly, his eyes pleading with me to do something. Andre looked like he might throw up. Then I looked at Aunt Simone, still unconscious, bleeding, vulnerable. If we left her and it took too long for someone to find her, she could die. She'd been awful and selfish to drive drunk, but she didn't deserve to die for it. I'm staying. I said firmly, I'm staying with Aunt Simone until help arrives. You all do what you want, but I won't abandon her. Dad's jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Michael, we don't have time for this. Emergency services could already be on their way. Someone might have seen the accident and called it in. We need to go now. Dad looked at me one more time. In his eyes, I saw disappointment and something darker, resentment. I was ruining his plan, threatening his solution to all our financial problems. Have it your way, he said finally. But you're on your own now, Naomi. You understand that? Whatever happens from here, you're on your own. He turned and started climbing the embankment toward the highway, Mom right behind him. Marcus hesitated, looking torn between following our parents and staying with me. Go, I told him gently. Take care of Andre. I'll be okay. Naomi, Marcus's voice cracked. Go, it's okay. I understand. He hugged me awkwardly, careful of my broken arm, then grabbed Andre's hand. The two of them followed our parents up the slope. I watched them disappear into the rain and darkness, and then I was alone with Aunt Simone. I knelt beside her, checking her pulse with my good hand. Still strong. The bleeding from her head wound had slowed. She might have a concussion, maybe worse, but she was stable for now. I used my graduation gown, ruined and muddy as it was, to cover her and keep her warm. The adrenaline was fading, and the pain was getting worse. My arms screamed with every movement. I was pretty sure I had cracked ribs too, because breathing hurt. But I stayed there, keeping watch over my aunt, waiting for help that seemed to take forever to arrive. I don't know how much time passed. Could have been 20 minutes, could have been an hour. The rain started to let up a little. I heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. Flashing lights appeared on the highway above. Help was coming. "Hang on, Aunt Simone," I whispered. "Just hang on a little longer." The paramedics found us quickly once they arrived. 2 ambulances, a fire truck, and 3 police cars. So many lights flashing red and blue in the darkness. A young female paramedic scrambled down the embankment first, her med kit bouncing against her hip. "I'm here," I called out weakly. "We're down here." She reached us and immediately started checking both of us. "I'm Sarah," she said, her hands moving efficiently over Aunt Simone's body. "What's your name, honey?" "Naomi Chen. This is my aunt, Simone Chen. She was driving." "How long has she been unconscious?" "I don't know exactly, maybe 30 minutes? I lost track of time." More paramedics arrived. They stabilized Aunt Simone's neck and spine, loaded her onto a backboard. Another medic, an older man with kind eyes, started examining me. "Van Arn's definitely broken," he said gently. "Anything else hurt?" "My ribs and my head." "We're gonna get you both to County Memorial. You're gonna be okay." He looked around at the wreckage. "Anyone else in the vehicle?" This was it, the moment where I could tell the truth or go along with my family's lie. I thought about what Dad had said, about the insurance money, the debt, my brother's futures. I thought about the threat that I'd be on my own. Then I thought about looking at myself in the mirror every day, knowing I'd been part of a fraud, knowing I'd helped my family profit from a lie. "Yes," I said clearly. "There were 6 of us in the car. My parents and 2 younger brothers. They climbed out and went to get help." The paramedic's expression changed slightly. "They left you here? With your injuries?" I told them to go. I stayed with my aunt. It wasn't a complete lie. I had chosen to stay. A police officer joined us, rain dripping off his cap. "Officer Rodriguez," he introduced himself. "You said there were 6 people in the vehicle?" "Yes, sir. My family went to flag down help." He spoke into his radio. "Be advised, we have multiple victims who exited the vehicle. Family members should be on the highway above our location, requesting additional units to locate and assess." They loaded me into an ambulance next to Aunt Simone. Sarah, the young paramedic, started an IV in my good arm. "You're very brave," she said. "Staying with your aunt like that with a broken arm, that couldn't have been easy." I didn't feel brave. I felt exhausted and betrayed and scared of what came next. At the hospital, they separated us. Aunt Simone went straight to the ICU for observation. They were worried about internal bleeding and brain swelling. I went to the ER where they x-rayed my arm, confirmed 3 broken ribs, and diagnosed a mild concussion. The arm required surgery. They scheduled it for the next morning and admitted me overnight. A different police officer came to my room around midnight. Officer Patricia Walsh, middle-aged with sharp, intelligent eyes. She sat in the chair beside my bed and pulled out a notebook. "Naomi, I need to ask you some questions about the accident. Are you feeling up to it?" "Yes, ma'am." "Can you tell me what happened? Start from the beginning." So I did. I told her everything. The graduation celebration, the restaurant, Aunt Simone drinking too much wine, the storm, the crash. When I got to the part where my family wanted to leave and pretend Simone had been alone, Officer Walsh stopped writing and looked up sharply. "Your father suggested abandoning your aunt and filing a false insurance claim?" "Yes, ma'am. He said it would be easier, cleaner, that the insurance money would help the family." "And you refused?" "Yes, ma'am." I stayed with Aunt Simone. Officer Walsh was quiet for a long moment. "Naomi, what you're telling me is very serious. If your family files that insurance claim with a false statement, that's fraud. Criminal fraud. they could face charges. I know my voice was barely a whisper. And you're willing to testify to this if necessary? Was I? Was I really willing to potentially send my own parents to jail? To tear my family apart? I thought about Marcus and Andre, about what this would do to them. But then I thought about right and wrong, about integrity, about the kind of person I wanted to be. Yes, ma'am, if I have to, I will. She nodded slowly. I want you to know, Naomi, that takes real courage. A lot of people wouldn't be willing to stand up to their family like this. Your aunt is very lucky you were there. After she left, I lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. My phone had been destroyed in the crash, so I had no way to contact anyone. No idea if my family even knew where I was or cared. The nurse had said my parents and brothers had been treated and released hours ago. Minor injuries. They'd gone home without me. Without even checking to see if I was okay. The surgery on my arm went well. Dr. Patel, my orthopedic surgeon, inserted a metal plate and 6 screws to hold the fractured bone together. I'd need physical therapy, but he was optimistic about a full recovery. They kept me in the hospital for 3 more days, because of the concussion and to manage pain. Aunt Simone woke up on day 2. She had a severe concussion and some internal bruising, but no permanent damage. When she was coherent enough, the police questioned her about the alcohol. They administered a delayed blood test which still showed elevated alcohol levels. She was going to be charged with DUI and reckless endangerment. On my 3rd day in the hospital, Mom and Dad finally showed up. They stood in the doorway of my room, neither of them coming closer. They looked uncomfortable, angry, defensive, all at once. Naomi, Dad said stiffly, how are you feeling? Like I was in a car accident. Mom flinched. We wanted to come sooner, but what? You've been busy? It's been 3 days. Don't take that tone with us, Dad snapped. We're your parents. Are you? Because parents usually check on their injured daughter. Parents don't abandon their child at an accident scene. We didn't abandon you, Mom said. You chose to stay. After you tried to blackmail me into going along with insurance fraud. They both went pale. Dad glanced at the door, then back at me. Lower your voice, he hissed. Do you have any idea what you've done? The police have been asking us questions. Very pointed questions about our statements from that night. Good, maybe they should. We're your family, Naomi. Mom's voice broke. How could you betray us like this? The word betray hit me like a slap. I betrayed you? You tried to commit fraud. You tried to abandon an unconscious woman to die. And somehow I'm the one who betrayed the family. Dad's jaw clenched. That insurance money could have changed everything for us. For your brothers. Do you understand what you've thrown away? I understand that I'm not willing to commit crimes for money. I'm sorry that disappoints you. Disappoints? Dad laughed bitterly. Naomi, you've destroyed this family. When this comes out, do you know what will happen to us? We'll be a joke. The Chens, who tried to commit insurance fraud. Your father could lose his job. Your brothers will be humiliated at school. Then, maybe you shouldn't have tried to commit insurance fraud, I said quietly. Mom moved closer, her expression pleading. Naomi, baby, it's not too late. You could tell the police you were confused, that the head injury made you remember things wrong. We could fix this. No one started to make this up. Strong am I. By lying, by protecting your family, Mom's composure cracked. By choosing the people who raised you, who love you, over some legal technicality. It's not a technicality, Mom. It's the law. It's right and wrong. Dad shook his head disgust. We should have known. You always thought you were better than us. Miss Perfect with her perfect grades. Now you're throwing your family under the bus to prove how righteous you are. His words hurt more than I wanted to admit. That's not fair, isn't it? You know what, Naomi? If this is how you want it, fine. but don't come running back to us when you need something. Don't expect us to co-sign any more loans, help with anything, be there for you. As far as your mother and I are concerned, you made your choice." They left. Just like that. No hug, no get well soon, no we're glad you're alive. They just walked out of my hospital room and out of my life. I broke down crying after they left. Deep, painful sobs that made my broken ribs scream in protest. A nurse came in, concerned, but I waved her off. How do you explain that kind of pain? The pain of your family choosing money over you, of being disowned for doing the right thing? Oh my goodness. Aunt Simone was moved out of ICU the same day. When she was able to have visitors, I went to see her. She was propped up in bed, still looking pretty rough. The gash on her forehead was stitched and bandaged. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she had the shaky, guilty look of someone facing serious consequences. Oh my goodness. "Naomi," she said when she saw me in my hospital gown and sling. "Oh God, Naomi, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I sat in the chair beside her bed. "You almost killed us all." I know, there's no excuse. The drinking, the driving, I was stupid and selfish, and I could have killed my whole family." Tears ran down her face. "Your mother won't even take my calls. She blames me for everything." "She should blame you. You made a terrible choice." Aunt Simone nodded miserably. "I heard what happened. After the crash, what your parents wanted to do, and that you stayed with me." She reached for my hand. "You saved my life, Naomi. If you'd left with them, if no one had found me for hours, I could have died from the head injury. I couldn't just leave you there." "Most people would have. Your own parents did." She squeezed my hand. "I also heard that you told the police the truth about the insurance plan. That took real courage." "It cost me my family." "No, honey. Your family's choices cost you your family. All you did was refuse to be part of a crime. That's not wrong. That's strong." We talked for a while longer. Aunt Simone promised to plead guilty to the DUI charges, to accept whatever consequences came. She also promised to testify against my parents if they tried to go through with the insurance claim. "Your mother is my sister," Aunt Simone said. "I love her. But what they tried to do, what they wanted you to do, that's beyond wrong. That's evil. And I won't help them get away with it." The insurance company launched a full investigation when inconsistencies emerged in my family's claim. My parents had indeed filed for the full payout, claiming everyone had minor injuries and the accident was just an unfortunate event. No mention of the alcohol. No mention of trying to convince the rest of us to lie. But my statement to the police contradicted their story. So did Aunt Simone's eventual admission. The medical records showing my serious injuries raised questions. If everyone got out safely with minor injuries, why was I in surgery? Why was I admitted for 3 days? The insurance investigator, a sharp woman named Rebecca Torres, interviewed everyone separately. She interviewed the first responders who'd found me and Aunt Simone alone at the scene. She pulled phone records showing that my parents had indeed called 911, but only after they'd already left the accident site. The timeline didn't match their story. "Mrs. Torres," I told her during my interview, "my parents tried to convince me to lie to help them commit insurance fraud. When I refused, they essentially disowned me. I'm telling you the complete truth about what happened that night." Rebecca nodded, making notes. "I believe you, Naomi, and I want you to know that insurance fraud is a serious crime. If your parents pursue this claim knowing it's fraudulent, they'll face criminal charges in addition to civil penalties. I understand. And you're prepared to testify to all of this if necessary?" "Yes, ma'am." Rebecca's investigation was thorough. She found witnesses from the restaurant who reported seeing Aunt Simone drinking heavily. She got the paramedic reports that documented my injuries and the timeline. She interviewed Officer Walsh, who took my initial statement. 3 weeks after the accident, Rebecca Torres submitted her report. The insurance company denied my parents' claim entirely. Not only that, they referred the case to the district attorney for prosecution. My parents were arrested on charges of attempted insurance fraud and making false statements to investigators. The bail was set at $20,000 each. They made bail and were released pending trial. I heard about all of this through Aunt Simone, who called me regularly. I'd been discharged from the hospital and was staying in a cheap extended stay motel, trying to figure out my life. The job offer from Patterson Chemical was still good, but I couldn't start until I'd completed physical therapy and could use my arm properly again. Marcus called me one night, crying. "Naomi, they arrested Mom and Dad. Everyone at school knows. People are talking. Andre and I don't know what to do." "I'm sorry, Marcus. I really am." "Did you have to tell? Did you have to destroy our family?" "They destroyed our family when they tried to commit a crime. All I did was tell the truth." "Yeah, well, the truth really sucks right now." He hung up on me. I sat in that dingy motel room and cried, again. I seemed to cry a lot those days. My arm hurt, my ribs hurt, my heart hurt. I'd done the right thing, but it didn't feel good. It didn't feel victorious. It felt lonely and sad and like I'd lost everything. But then I thought about the alternative. About living with the lie, about profiting from fraud, about becoming the kind of person who could abandon an unconscious woman and then lie about it to authorities. I couldn't be that person. Even if it cost me my family, I couldn't be that person. Aunt Simone called a few days later. "Naomi, I need to tell you something. I'm selling my house, downsizing. I need to pay for lawyers and restitution, and I honestly don't need that big place anyway. Okay? I want you to have some of the money from the sale to help you get started again. Pay for an apartment, get furniture, whatever you need." "Aunt Simone, I can't." "Yes, you can. Naomi. You saved my life. You stood by me when your own parents abandoned me. You told the truth, even though it cost you everything. That deserves to be repaid. You don't owe me anything." "Maybe not. But I want to do this. Please, let me help you. God knows I owe you that much." I accepted her offer because I was desperate and had nowhere else to turn. Aunt Simone gave me $30,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to rent a small apartment, buy some furniture, and have a cushion while I recovered and started my new job. The preliminary hearing for my parents' case happened 6 months after the accident. I had to testify. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, sitting in that courtroom, looking at my parents at the defendant's table, and telling the judge exactly what had happened that night. Mom cried the whole time. Dad stared straight ahead, his face hard and unforgiving. Marcus and Andre sat in the gallery with a family friend. They wouldn't look at me. The prosecutor, a young Asian man named David Park, was thorough and respectful. He walked me through every detail. The crash, the injuries, my father's proposal to lie, the threat that I'd be on my own if I didn't cooperate. The defense attorney, an older white woman with perfectly styled hair, tried to poke holes in my testimony. "Isn't it true, Miss Chen, that you suffered a concussion in the accident? Couldn't that have affected your memory?" "My memory of that night is very clear, ma'am." "Isn't it also true that you had a contentious relationship with your parents? That you resented their financial struggles?" "That's not true. I love my parents. I just couldn't be part of a crime." "Or perhaps you saw an opportunity to hurt them, to get back at them for some perceived slight?" "Objection," David Park said firmly. "Counsel is badgering the witness." "Sustained," the judge said. "Ms. Wilson, please stick to questions about the facts of the case." The defense attorney changed tactics. "Ms. Chen, isn't it true that your aunt, Simone Chen, is paying for your living expenses?" "She gave me money to help me get back on my feet, yes." "So you have a financial interest in maintaining your story? In helping your aunt shift blame away from herself?" "I'm telling the truth. My aunt was absolutely at fault for driving drunk. I've never claimed otherwise." But my parents tried to use her drunk driving as an opportunity to commit fraud. Those are the facts. The judge ultimately ruled that there was enough evidence to proceed to trial. My parents pled not guilty and prepared for a court battle. The trial took place 9 months after the accident. I'd started my job at Patterson Chemical by then. My arm had healed well enough for lab work. Though I still had lingering pain sometimes, the physical scars were fading. The emotional ones were still raw. The prosecution's case was strong. They had my testimony, Aunt Simone's testimony, the medical records, the statements from first responders, the timeline that proved my parents had left the scene before calling for help. They had recordings of my parents' conversations with insurance investigators where they claimed everyone had minor injuries and walked away safely. The defense tried to paint me as a vindictive daughter and Aunt Simone as a drunk trying to shift blame. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Guilty on 2 counts of attempted insurance fraud. Guilty on 4 counts of making false statements to investigators. My parents were sentenced to 18 months in prison, with the possibility of parole after 12 months. They were also ordered to pay restitution to the insurance company for investigation costs and to complete community service. I wasn't in the courtroom when the verdict was read. I couldn't face it. But Aunt Simone was there, and she called me immediately after. "It's over," she said. "They were found guilty." I sat down heavily on my couch. How bad? 18 months. Could be less with good behavior. Prison. My parents were going to prison. Because of me. Because I'd told the truth. "Naomi, honey, this isn't your fault," Aunt Simone said, reading my mind. "They made their choices. They tried to commit a crime. The consequences are on them." But it didn't feel that way. It felt like I'd destroyed my family. Like I'd thrown a grenade into the center of everything I'd ever known and walked away from the explosion. Marcus and Andre went to live with our dad's brother and his wife in another state. I tried to call them, to explain, to maintain some connection. Marcus wouldn't take my calls. Andre sent me one text. "I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted." What I wanted? I wanted my graduation day to stay perfect. I wanted Aunt Simone to have not driven drunk. I wanted my parents to have chosen integrity over money. I wanted my family back. But none of that was possible now. My parents served their sentences in minimum security facilities. I didn't visit them. They made it clear through their lawyer that they didn't want to see me anyway. When they were released after 14 months, they moved to Florida to start over somewhere no one knew their history. They never contacted me, not once. No email, no phone call, no letter. It was like I'd ceased to exist for them. The years passed. I threw myself into my work at Patterson Chemical. I was good at it, really good. Within 3 years, I'd been promoted to senior researcher. My projects on drug delivery systems were getting attention in the industry. I was building a career, building a life. But the wound in my heart never fully healed. I'd see families together, parents with their adult children, and feel this ache, this sense of something missing, something broken that I'd never be able to fix. Aunt Simone became my family. She'd completed her DUI program, paid her fines, and rebuilt her real estate career. We had dinner together every few weeks. She was the one who came to my work events, who celebrated my promotions, who was there when I needed someone. You know, she told me once over coffee, what happened to us, it revealed who people really are. Your parents showed you that they valued money over integrity. You showed everyone that you valued truth over comfort. Those are just facts about who you all are as people. I lost my whole family, Aunt Simone. No, honey, you lost people who were willing to commit crimes and drag you into it. That's not family. That's just DNA. Marcus reached out when I was 26. A short email. "I'm getting married next year. I thought you should know. I don't know if you want to come. I don't even know if I want you there. But you're still my sister, I guess. So there it is." I cried when I read it. The first contact from my family in 4 years. I wrote back, "Congratulations, Marcus. I'd love to be there if you want me. But I understand if you don't. I'm proud of you either way. Love, Naomi." He never responded. I didn't get an invitation to the wedding. Andre contacted me when he was 23, about to graduate college. "Naomi, I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" We met at a coffee shop halfway between where we each lived. Andre had grown up, tall and serious-looking. He looked like Dad. "I'm graduating next month," he said after we'd ordered drinks. "Business degree. I've got a good job lined up in Atlanta." "That's wonderful, Andre. I'm really proud of you." He stirred his coffee, not meeting my eyes. "Uncle Robert and Aunt Kim helped pay for school. They've been good to Marcus and me, but it wasn't the same as having Mom and Dad." "I know, I'm sorry." "Are you?" He finally looked up. "Are you really sorry? Because from where I'm sitting, you chose principles over family. You sent our parents to prison. You broke us all apart. And for what? To prove you were right?" The old guilt surged up. "Andre, they tried to commit fraud. They wanted all of us to lie." "So what?" His voice rose. "So what if they wanted the insurance money? We needed it, Naomi. We were drowning in debt. That money could have changed everything. Instead, you played hero, and we all paid the price. It was wrong." Was it? Or was it just uncomfortable? Lots of people do uncomfortable things for their families, but not you. You're too good for that. His words cut deep, because part of me had wondered the same thing. Had I been too rigid? Too self-righteous? Should I have just gone along with it, for the sake of keeping the family together? "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said quietly, "but I can't regret telling the truth. Even if it cost me everything, I can't regret it." Andre shook his head. "You know what the worst part is? Mom and Dad are still struggling in Florida. They work crappy jobs because their criminal record makes it hard to find anything better. Marcus and I barely talk to them because being around them just reminds us of the whole nightmare. Our family is shattered. And you're doing great. You've got your fancy research job, your apartment, your career. You lost nothing. We lost everything." "I lost my family, Andre." "No, Naomi. We lost our family. You just walked away and built a new life. You got to keep your integrity and your innocence. The rest of us got stuck with the consequences of your choices." He left after that. Didn't even finish his coffee. I sat there for a long time, thinking about his words. Was he right? Had I been selfish in my righteousness? I talked to my therapist about it. Yes, I'd started therapy. Turned out that being disowned by your family and testifying against your parents in court leaves some psychological scars. Dr. Martinez listened to Andre's accusations and then asked me a simple question. "Naomi, do you believe what your parents tried to do was wrong?" "Yes." "Do you believe you would have been complicit in a crime if you'd gone along with their plan?" "Yes." "Then you made the only choice you could make and still live with yourself. Your brother is in pain. And he's directing that pain at you because you're the one who disrupted the comfortable lie. But Naomi, sometimes doing the right thing costs everything. That doesn't make it less right. It just makes it hard." The years continued to pass. I dated sometimes, but relationships were difficult. How do you explain to someone that you're estranged from your entire family because you reported them for insurance fraud? Some people admired my integrity. Others looked at me like I was cold or unforgiving. I focused on my work. At 30, I was made director of research at Patterson Chemical. I was overseeing a team of 12 researchers, working on breakthrough projects that could change lives. It was fulfilling work, important work. But there was still that hollow place inside me where my family used to be. Aunt Simone died when I was 32. Sudden heart attack. I found her when she didn't answer my calls, and I went to check on her. She was gone, peacefully, in her sleep. I was her only living relative who claimed the body, who planned the funeral, who settled her estate. My parents didn't come to the funeral. Neither did Marcus or Andre. It was just me and some of her friends from work and her book club. She left me everything: her house, her savings, her life insurance. It came to just over $200,000. In her will, she'd written a letter to me. "Naomi, you're the daughter I never had. You showed me what real courage looks like, what integrity means. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Use this money to build something good, something that matters. All my love, Aunt Simone." That night, sitting in her house surrounded by her things, I broke down completely. I was 32 years old, successful, independent, financially stable, and utterly alone. The last person in the world who loved me unconditionally was gone. But then I thought about what Aunt Simone had said. Build something good, something that matters. An idea started forming. I used Aunt Simone's money combined with some of my own savings to start a foundation, the Chen Integrity Fund, I called it. Its purpose was to provide legal and financial support to people who'd suffered retaliation for whistleblowing or standing up for what's right. People who'd lost jobs for reporting safety violations, people who'd been blacklisted for refusing to participate in fraud, people who'd been disowned by families for refusing to go along with crimes. People like me. The foundation started small, just me and a part-time lawyer, but word spread. Within 2 years, we were helping dozens of people. Within 5 years, we had a full staff and had helped hundreds. I met amazing people through the foundation. A nurse who'd reported a doctor for falsifying medical records and lost her job. A factory worker who'd blown the whistle on environmental violations and been blacklisted from his industry. A daughter who'd reported her parents for elder abuse of her grandmother and been cut out of the family entirely. Their stories were all different, but the core was the same. They'd seen something wrong, they'd spoken up, and they'd paid a terrible price for their integrity. The foundation provided them with legal support, financial assistance, while they rebuilt their lives, counseling, job placement services. We helped them survive the consequences of doing the right thing. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. And as I helped them, I healed myself. Every person we assisted, every life we helped rebuild, it felt like validation. Like proof that standing up for the truth mattered even when it cost everything. The media started paying attention. News articles about the foundation. I was invited to speak at conferences about ethics and integrity. A major magazine did a profile on me, titled "The Price of Principle." That article changed everything. It included my full story, the accident, my family's attempted fraud, my testimony, the years of estrangement. It was raw and honest and painted me as either a hero or a villain, depending on your perspective. The article went viral. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion about what I'd done. Social media exploded with debates. Some people called me brave and inspirational. Others called me heartless and self-righteous. She destroyed her family over money, one comment read. She could have just kept quiet and everyone would have been fine. She stood up for what's right when everyone around her wanted to do wrong, another countered. That takes real courage. The attention was overwhelming, but it also brought more support for the foundation. Donations poured in. More people reached out for help. The Chen Integrity Fund grew beyond anything I'd imagined. And then, 3 months after the article published, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "From your brother." My hands shook as I opened it. "Naomi, it's Marcus. I saw the magazine article. Everyone I know saw it. My wife read it and had questions. A lot of questions about why I never talk about my sister, why we're estranged, what really happened all those years ago." I had to tell her the full story. About the accident, about what Mom and Dad tried to do, about your testimony. You know what she said after I told her everything? She said you were brave, that you did the right thing, and if I'd been in your position, she hopes I would have made the same choice. It made me think, really think. For the first time in years, I tried to see it from your perspective instead of just being angry. I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. But I wanted you to know that I understand now, at least a little bit, why you made the choices you made, and the foundation you started, helping people who stood up for what's right. That's good. That means something. Maybe we can talk sometime, if you want to. No pressure. Just maybe we can talk. Marcus. I read the email 5 times, crying harder each time. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was something. A crack in the wall that had separated us for 12 years. I wrote back, Marcus, I would love to talk, whenever you're ready. I've missed you every single day. Love, Naomi. We met 6 months later, just coffee, neutral territory. His wife Keisha came with him for support. It was awkward at first. 12 years of hurt and anger and misunderstanding don't disappear over lattes. But we talked, really talked. I explained my reasoning, the impossible position I'd been in, the guilt I'd carried all these years. He explained his anger, how hard things had been for him and Andre, how abandoned they'd felt when I chose the law over family. I never chose the law over family, I said. I chose honesty over crime. There's a difference. Maybe, Marcus said slowly. Or maybe sometimes families are supposed to protect each other, even when someone messes up. I don't know. I still don't know if you were right or wrong. But I'm tired of being angry. Keisha spoke up. I told Marcus, what your parents tried to do, that wasn't just messing up. That was planning to commit fraud and trying to force their kids to be part of it. That's not normal. That's not what families do. My parents would disagree, Marcus said quietly. Do they? I asked. Have you talked to them about it? Not really. We barely talk at all. Once or twice a year, maybe. They're still bitter about everything. Still blame you for ruining their lives. And you? Do you still blame me? Marcus was quiet for a long time. I'm working on not blaming you. It's a process. It wasn't a fairy tale reunion, but it was a start. Over the next year, Marcus and I slowly rebuilt some kind of relationship. It would never be what it was before. Too much had happened, too much time had passed. But we were talking, we were trying. Andre was harder. He refused to meet with me, refused my calls. Marcus said he was still too angry, that maybe he'd never be ready. I had to accept that. I'd made my choices, and he'd made his. Sometimes the damage is too deep to repair. My parents never reached out. According to Marcus, they followed the foundation's growth online, read the articles about me, but maintained that I'd destroyed the family for my own ego. They would never forgive me, and I had to make peace with that. Dr. Martinez helped me work through it. Naomi, you can't control how other people react to your choices. You can only control whether you make choices you can live with. Can you live with what you did? Stop. Strong S, I said. If I could go back, knowing everything that would happen, I'd make the same choice. It would still hurt. I'd still grieve what I lost, but I couldn't live with myself if I'd been part of that fraud. Strong. Then you have your answer. You did what you had to do. The consequences were harsh and unfair, but they weren't your fault. They were the result of your parents' choices, not yours. By age 35, the Chen Integrity Fund had helped over 1,000 people. We had offices in 3 states, a full-time staff of 20, an annual budget of over $2 million. We'd helped people fight wrongful termination lawsuits, provided financial support during unemployment, connected whistleblowers with legal resources, and offered counseling services. Every person we helped was a victory. Every life we helped rebuild was proof that standing up for what's right, even at great personal cost, mattered. I was interviewed for a documentary about whistleblowers and retaliation. The filmmaker asked me if I regretted how things had turned out. I regret the pain, I said. I regret that my family couldn't see beyond their immediate financial needs to understand the larger principle at stake. I regret that I lost relationships that meant everything to me. But do I regret telling the truth? No, never. Because if I'd lied, if I'd been part of that fraud, I would have lost something more important than my family. I would have lost myself. The documentary aired on a major streaming platform. The response was overwhelming. More donations to the foundation, more people reaching out for help, more media attention, and another email, this time from Andre. Naomi, I watched the documentary. I've been thinking a lot. Keisha, Marcus's wife, she told me I needed to deal with my anger, that it was eating me up inside. She was right. I'm still hurt. I'm still angry. But I also understand now that what Mom and Dad tried to do was wrong, really wrong. And you were in an impossible situation. I don't know if we can ever have a real relationship again. Too much time has passed. Too much damage. But I wanted you to know that I don't hate you anymore. I'm working on forgiving you, even though I'm not sure you need forgiveness for anything except refusing to be a criminal. That's progress, right? Take care of yourself, Naomi. Andre. I cried when I read it. Happy tears, sad tears, complicated tears. It wasn't a reunion, but it was release. Release from the worst of the guilt and anger that had haunted me for so many years. Now, at 38 years old, I look back on everything that happened and I can finally see it clearly. My family had a crisis moment. A moment where they could choose integrity or convenience, truth or profit, right or wrong. They chose wrong, and when I wouldn't go along with it, they made me the villain in their story. But I'm not the villain. I never was. I was just someone who refused to commit a crime, refused to abandon an unconscious woman, refused to profit from fraud. The price I paid was steep. I lost my parents, my brothers, my sense of family and belonging. I spent years questioning myself, wondering if I'd been too rigid, too self-righteous. I carried guilt that wasn't mine to carry. But I also built something beautiful from the wreckage, a foundation that helps people who found themselves in impossible situations like mine. A career I'm proud of, a life of meaning and purpose. My name is Naomi Chen. I'm 38 years old. 13 years ago, my family tried to make me complicit in a crime, and when I refused, they disowned me. They thought they were punishing me. They thought they were teaching me a lesson about family loyalty. But what they actually did was set me free. Free to become someone I could respect. Someone who stands up for what's right, even when it costs everything. Someone who helps others do the same. Would I rather have my family back? Of course. Do I still feel the ache of their absence? Every single day. But would I change my choices if I could go back? No. Because those choices made me who I am. And I can look at myself in the mirror every morning and be proud of the woman looking back at me. That's worth more than any amount of insurance money, more than avoiding family conflict, more than taking the easy path. Sometimes doing the right thing costs everything, but the alternative, living as someone you can't respect, costs even more. The Chen Integrity Fund continues to grow. Last year, we helped 1,500 people. This year, we're on track to help 2,000. Every single one of them is someone who stood up when it would have been easier to stay silent. Someone who chose principle over convenience. Someone who paid a price for their integrity. And every single one of them reminds me why my choice mattered. Why speaking truth, even uncomfortable truth, even truth that costs you everything, is always worth it in the end. I still hope that someday my parents will reach out, that we might find some kind of peace or reconciliation. But I'm not holding my breath. Some wounds go too deep. Some choices create rifts that can't be bridged. And that's okay. It hurts, but it's okay. Because I built a life I'm proud of from the ashes of the family I lost. I turned my pain into purpose, my loss into a legacy. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong. so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. Marcus and I have coffee every few months now. His kids call me Aunt Naomi, which makes me cry happy tears every time. It's not the relationship we had before, but it's real and it's honest and it's built on truth instead of convenient lies. Andre sends me an email on my birthday each year. Just a simple, "Happy birthday, sis." It's not much, but it's something. A thread of connection that wasn't there for so many years. My parents are still in Florida, still struggling, still bitter. Marcus says they refuse to talk about me, refuse to acknowledge the foundation's success, refuse to admit that maybe, just maybe, I was right to tell the truth. That's their choice, their loss, their burden to carry. Mine is lighter now. 13 years of therapy, of building something meaningful, of helping others, of slowly reconnecting with my brothers. It's all made the weight of what I lost more bearable. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. It does. There are still nights when I lie awake and wonder what might have been if that rainy graduation day had gone differently. If Aunt Simone hadn't driven drunk. If my parents had chosen integrity over insurance money. If I'd had a family that supported my choice to tell the truth instead of punishing me for it. But those are fantasy scenarios. This is real life. And in real life, sometimes you have to choose between being part of your family and being true to yourself, between love and honesty, between belonging and integrity. I chose integrity. I chose honesty. I chose to be someone I could respect, even if it meant losing everyone I loved. And you know what? I'd make that choice again, every time, because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. You have to look in the mirror and know who you are, what you stand for, what lines you won't cross. My family wanted me to cross a line I couldn't cross. They wanted me to be someone I couldn't be. And when I refused, they cast me out. But I survived. More than survived, I thrived. I built a life of meaning and purpose from the rubble of the family that rejected me. So here's my question for you, the one I ask everyone who hears this story. What would you have done? Would you have stayed silent to keep your family together? Would you have gone along with the fraud to avoid conflict? Or would you have done what I did? Spoken the truth even knowing the cost? There's no wrong answer. We all have to make our own choices and live with our own consequences. But I challenge you to really think about it. To imagine yourself in that hospital bed, broken and betrayed, being threatened with abandonment if you don't commit a crime. What would you choose? Comfort or conscience? Family or integrity? The easy lie or the hard truth? I chose truth. It cost me everything and gave me everything. It destroyed one life and built another. It broke me and made me stronger than I ever imagined possible. My name is Naomi Chen. I'm 38 years old, and this is my truth. What's yours?